AJA Louden is a graffiti artist, a muralist, and now he's working with textiles and a tufting gun. He's got a new exhibition out called Prairie Star Deck. It takes place May 25th through July 13th at the Alberta Craft Gallery in Edmonton. AJA Louden joins me now. Let's talk about you as a muralist just for a second here and explore the idea of how did you get into doing projects that are that grand in scope to begin with?
So since I was a little kid, I spent a lot of time drawing. My parents always just like, if they needed to entertain me, would just give me like a roll of paper and a box of crayons.
Yeah.
And so I was just always drawing. And eventually I started drawing on the walls a little bit. And just slowly started teaching myself how to scale it up, I guess. I got really interested in graffiti later in life too.
And what attracted you to that quote unquote to life, that way of painting to begin with?
Yeah, I think for me, there's many different things in life that sort of like led me into graffiti. So I was really into hip hop culture and still am, it's
Yeah.
a big part of my life. And the visual expressive form of hip hop culture is often seen as like graffiti fills that role, like for dance, there's breakdancing. For music, we have hip hop music or rap. There's DJing, and then there's graffiti, which is like lumped in culturally with the rest of hip hop. So I think that
Yeah.
was part of it. I also grew up going to school in a small town. And so we didn't have any like well-known arts institutions. There weren't like just galleries you could go in regularly, but we did have trains that came through town. And so seeing the trains come through town, they would slow down. I'd see these beautiful masterpieces on the side of the trains, looking down that rabbit hole in Alice in Wonderland, and all of a sudden seeing this whole new world down there and be like, why are people writing on the poles of this city? And why are people writing on the sides of trains?
What attracted you about graffiti specifically? Was it what it was saying that piqued your curiosity when you were looking at it on trains moving by where you were growing up in southern Alberta? Was it that the graffiti was rebellious in a way, or do you think it had something to say about the sort of aesthetic, the zeitgeist of our times?
I think it was a little bit from all of the above,
Mm.
like there's a little bit of mystery associated with it. I think culturally I felt more connected to it than the art that I saw when I was in school.
And the fascinating thing about this is a little bit paradoxical or maybe antithetical, you could say, to the exhibition at hand, which is Prairie Star Deck. So, how did the transformation to working with textiles come about? Have you long harbored a desire to knit couch and sweaters, or what's the skinny there?
Yeah, so I mean, again, it just kind of found me. When I look back, growing up, my mother had like a sewing room, and so
Yeah.
she was always like making blankets or like clothes for us as kids, or and she had a small company for a while where she was like sewing orders for people.
Wow.
And so like when I look way back, maybe that was a seed being planted. But more recently, I did a residency with a place in Edmonton called Fern School of Craft. And so Fern just invited me out for this artist residency to learn how to tuft. And for me, I just kind of took it on a whim. I had a friend of mine who like kind of recommended it, and I was like, oh yeah, it's something I like maybe wouldn't have looked into on my own, but yeah, if
Yeah.
you think it's cool, let me check it out. And I met with Fern, and she's just like an incredible teacher. She's so passionate about her craft.
It's a fascinating. I mean, just from the pieces that I've seen and the pieces that I've seen you working, they are absolutely spellbinding. And the idea that you contemporize something that the cliche is seems so, crocheting. You picture old women gathered together in the library, and you take something and you contemporize it in such a way that it's absolutely mind blowing. In invoking speculative and science fiction, what inspired Prairie Star Deck?
Yes, there are lots of points of inspiration for this new body of work. I've really been interested in Afrofuturism, which is sort of an art movement that combines science fiction and fantasy and maybe kind of like alternative history to project forward the human consciousness, to imagine like these alternate futures that we might live in together. One of the authors who's seen as like maybe a progenitor of Afrofuturism is Octavia Butler. And so she's one of my favorite authors, writes amazing science fiction, and just like really has this deep understanding of human nature. And so that was a point of inspiration. Over the past few years, I've been painting Afrofuturist murals around the province. That sort of was the grounding of this. And so I wanted to continue these ideas and start to play with them in this textile medium of tufting. So I'm creating these tapestries that are inspired by Afrofuturism. Really, it's following the story of this mother and this daughter. The story kind of tracks how their relationship changes and how the world changes around them through these challenges that they have to overcome. Also, the prairies themselves. The idea of like what is the future for us on these prairies, and so you'll see like a lot of prairie flora come up within the piece.
Okay.
So there's like Saskatoon berries and okra plants and
Wow.
birch and elm trees, and then a few other surprises too.
Well, this is an inspiring piece of work, Prairie Star Deck, and it opens up Alberta Craft Discovery Gallery at the Alberta Craft Council. And what a remarkable space that is. Thank you for spending the time. I want to go out, but maybe I'll ask you, do you have a request? Can I play a request for you?
Yeah, awesome. Let's go with Fela Kuti, Water No Get Enemy.
Thank you for spending the time today.
Thanks so much.